It is the last Saturday in June, and you are standing on the path between your tomato rows with your coffee going cold. The weeds came back, and not the little ones either. The big ones, with the thick center and the leaves laying flat like a dinner plate, right up against the stem of your best tomato plant where no hoe can reach without cutting a root. You poured the white jug of vinegar on these 3 weeks ago. They went brown in a day, and you felt good about it. Now they are back, and bigger than before. Somebody in the family will tell you to use vinegar. Somebody else swears by a kettle of boiling water. And there is always one fellow who says a handful of rock salt and be done with it. What nobody in that argument will tell you is that all 3 of those work, and all 3 of them fail. And which one you get has almost nothing to do with what is in the jug. Stay with me to the end, because whether any of these 3 kills a weed for good comes down to one thing happening down inside that root where you cannot see it. There are about 10 days in the year when that root is flat broke and cannot fight you. I will show you how to read those 10 days off the top of the plant, right there in the row. I am Elias Miller. I am 58 years old. I am Old Order Amish, and I was born and raised right here in Holmes County, Ohio, the largest Amish settlement in the world. My daddy, that is my grandfather, set me in the garden rows pulling weeds when I was 8 years old, and I have been at it every summer since, which is right about 50 years of weeds. Emma and I raised 7 children and 19 grandchildren out of that garden without ever carrying debt. And now that our son Mose runs the dairy, I keep the garden and the shop and the bees. And I finally have the time to tell you how we do a thing. So how does the same white jug of vinegar kill a weed, dead 1 week, and do nothing at all the next? Start with what the garden center wants instead. There is a whole wall of it in June. The pump sprayers and the wands and the jugs with warning labels on the back, $30 and $40 a season. My English neighbors, and English is just our word for our non-Amish friends, buy that wall every spring. They spray in May, they spray again in July, and the same weeds are up along the same fence line in August. A thing you have to buy again every year was never a fix. It was a subscription. Now the 3 you came here for: vinegar, boiling water, and rock salt. All 3 are old, all 3 are cheap, and all 3 have an army of folks online swearing theirs is the only one that works. That argument never settles, and there is a plain reason why. They are 3 different tools for 3 different pieces of ground, and picking the wrong one is how you got the mess you are looking at right now. And hold on to what I said about that root, because it is why all 3 of them fail in the same month. Now, everything I'm about to show you is 1 page out of a manual Emma and I sat down and wrote, because nobody ever got rich teaching a man how to keep his own money. It is called Save $7,000 a Year, the Amish Country Manual. She keeps the kitchen and the pantry, I keep the barn and the ground, and between us it is the plain way we run this place, set down step by step with the materials and the dollar amount beside every method. Warming and cooling a house without the big bills, the water and the power, the pantry and the garden that feed a family, the cleaning that costs pennies, and keeping a thing running instead of buying it twice. It is $17. It was $47. You do not have to become Amish. You just have to keep your money like one. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time, There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let us start with the jug most folks reach for first. Vinegar is acid. That is the whole of it. The gallon from the grocery store is 5% acetic acid, and the rest is plain water. 5%, remember that number because it matters in a minute. When that acid lands on a green leaf, it strips the waxy coat off the outside and pulls the water straight out of the cells underneath. The leaf gives up. On a hot afternoon, you can stand there and watch a dandelion go limp, and by supper time it is brown and crisp like a leaf in November. Now the part the label never says. That acid does not get past the dirt line. It burns what it touches and not one thing more. It has no road down into the root. There is a stronger kind sold at the farm store as horticultural vinegar, 20% and 30% acid. 20%, not 5. That will burn your skin, and a splash of it in your eye can take your sight. If you ever use it, you wear goggles and you wear gloves, and you keep the children and the dog in the house. I do not keep it on this place. The grocery store jug does everything I need it to do. So use the plain jug, and use it right. Pick a hot, dry day, 70 degrees or better, with sun on the ground. Go out at midday, when the sun is high and hard. That sun is not decoration. The acid opens the leaf up, and the sun finishes the job by drying it out, and on a cool, cloudy morning, that same vinegar does about half the work for you. Look at the sky first. If rain is coming inside of a day, wait for a better one. Rain washes it off the leaf, and you have spent your vinegar on nothing at all. Put a squirt of dish soap in the sprayer, about 1 teaspoon to the quart. 1 teaspoon to the quart, no more than that. The soap breaks the water so the vinegar clings to a waxy leaf instead of beading up and rolling off onto the dirt. Spray until the leaf is wet. Then stop. More does not help you. It just runs off into the soil where it does no good to anybody. And set a shield up if you are working anywhere near your tomatoes. I take an old coffee can with both ends cut out, set it down over the weed, and spray inside the can. Vinegar cannot tell a weed from a bean plant. It kills whatever green thing it lands on, and it does not apologize afterward. Now, the failure, and this is the part you already lived through. Anything with a taproot laughs at vinegar. A dandelion root runs down 10 or 12 inches. Bindweed goes deeper than that. You burn the top off, the root sits down there with a full pantry, and it pushes a new crown up in 9 or 10 days. Half the time it comes back thicker than it was before, because what you actually did was prune it. That is exactly what happened to the weed standing in your row. And let me put one worry to rest while we are here, because I hear it constantly. Vinegar does not ruin your soil. Folks tell each other it sours the ground for years afterward. Acetic acid is the same thing in a jar of Emma's pickles, and the little life in your dirt eats it up and goes on about its business. In a week or two, that ground is right back where it was. The reason to be careful with vinegar has nothing to do with your soil. The reason to be careful is the good plant standing 8 inches away from it. So the ground where vinegar earns its keep is this: young weeds. Little annual weeds under about 3 inches tall before they have built any root worth the name. Chickweed, purslane, young crabgrass, and that green fuzz that comes up in the gravel drive and along the fence line every June. Hit those at 1 in the afternoon and they are done, and they stay done. A gallon runs about $3 and does a considerable stretch of fence line. Vinegar is not a weed killer. It is a seedling killer. The day you start using it that way is the day it stops disappointing you. But there is one thing vinegar cannot do at all, and the kettle on your stove does it for free. A kettle of boiling water is 212 degrees. 212. When that hits a plant, it does not burn it the way acid does. It cooks it. The cell walls all let go at once, top to bottom, and the plant goes from standing up to laying flat inside of about a minute. You can stand there and watch it happen. And that heat does the one thing the vinegar jug cannot. It carries down into the top half-inch of soil, and it cooks the weed seed sitting there waiting on next spring. Every square foot of your garden path is holding thousands of seeds in that top inch, just laying there. Vinegar does nothing whatsoever to them. Boiling water kills the ones near the surface, and that is the whole reason a crack you treat with a kettle stays clean twice as long as a crack you spray. Now, how you pour decides everything, and almost everybody does it wrong. Do not fling it across the top of the plant. The leaves are the cheapest part of a weed. Heat on the leaves rolls off and cools in a second, and the root never feels a thing. Pour it right where the stem meets the dirt. That spot is the crown, and it is the one place a plant cannot come back without. Pour it slow. Count to 3 while you are pouring, so the heat has time to soak down instead of running away across the surface. Use a kettle with a spout, not an open pot. A spout puts the water where you are aiming and keeps it off your shoe. Carry it low and walk slow. If there are porch steps between your stove and your garden path, set the kettle down and take them one at a time. There is no rush on this whatsoever. A kettle of boiling water will hurt you worse than anything else in this video, and it will do it in half a second. Where the kettle fails is depth. That heat gets down about an inch, maybe 2 in loose ground. A dandelion root sitting at 12 inches does not care. You will kill the top and you will kill the crown, and a strong taproot will still push a new crown up in a couple of weeks, though it comes back weaker every single time, and that is going to matter a great deal more than you think it does right now. It also does not cover ground. Boiling 5 gallons to walk a fence line is a lot of fuel for what you get back. And Emma will have a word with me if I tie up her stove for an hour to kill weeds. And it does not steer. Water spreads. Do not pour it inside the reach of anything you love, because the shallow feeder roots under that path belong to the tree beside it. So the kettle is for hard ground and tight places, cracks in a concrete walk, the joints between the bricks on a patio, a gravel drive, right up along the foundation where you do not want to be spraying anything at all, and around the fence posts where the mower never reaches. It costs you the fuel to boil it and not 1 penny more. It leaves nothing behind. An hour later, you could set a plant in that same spot and it would grow just fine. Try that after rock salt. Which brings us to the yellow bag, and I am going to be straight with you about this one, because I believe it has done more damage in American gardens than the weeds ever did. Rock salt kills 2 ways, and both of them are more permanent than anything we have talked about yet. First, it pulls the water out of the plant. Salt draws water toward itself, so a root sitting in salted ground has the water run backward on it, out of the plant and into the dirt. The weed dies of thirst while standing in wet ground. Second, and this is the one that ought to worry you, the sodium goes into the soil itself, and it stays there. It shoulders the calcium and the magnesium off the clay and takes their place. When that happens, the crumb structure of the soil collapses. Good dirt is full of little clumps with air spaces between them, which is how water soaks in and how roots breathe. Salted dirt goes tight and slick and hard, and the rain runs off the top of it instead of going down into it. That is not one season of damage. On heavy clay, that is years of it. But the killing is not really the problem. The traveling is. Salt does not stay where you set it down. Every rain moves it. It goes down, and it goes sideways, and it follows the slope of your ground the same as any other water does. A handful in a crack at the top of the drive is in the flower bed at the bottom of the drive by August. There was an English fellow up the road who salted the gravel strip along his driveway 2 summers running, just to save himself the trimming. He never put 1 grain near his silver maple. That maple stood 30 feet off and downhill. It browned from the bottom branches up the following July, and by the second year, they had a crew in to take it down. He never once put those two things together in his mind. And if you have a well, keep the salt well away from the ground, anywhere around it. What goes into the ground has a way of coming back up in the water. Think about that for a second. Everything else in this video is spent and gone in a day or two. Salt is a decision you are handing to whoever gardens that ground 15 years from now. Remember what I told you about the 10 days when that root is broke and cannot fight? We are getting close to it, and it is going to change how you use all three of these. So, is there any honest place for rock salt? There is one, and it is narrow. A crack in a concrete drive or a concrete walk on flat ground with nothing planted downhill of it, no tree within reach, and no well anywhere nearby. That is the entire list. In that one spot, salt in the crack will hold it bare a good long while. But look hard at that spot again. That is the exact spot the kettle handles for free and leaves nothing behind. In 50 years, I have not found one place on this farm where rock salt was the right answer and boiling water was not. Now, rock salt does have a job here. It has 3 of them. It goes in the ice cream freezer, packed down in with the ice, because salt makes ice colder than ice can get on its own. And that is how 19 grandchildren end up on our porch in August. It goes in the brine crock out in the smokehouse when we cure a ham. And it goes in the softener for the hard water that comes up out of our well. Not one grain of it goes in Emma's garden. She would have a few words for me about that, and every one of them would be fair. We do not salt ground we intend to keep, so that is the verdict, and I will give it to you plain. For cost, the kettle wins. The stove is already lit. For speed, the kettle again. A weed is flat inside of a minute. For covering ground, vinegar. A sprayer and a $3 jug will walk a fence line no kettle can keep up with. For depth, not one of the 3. None of them reaches a 12-inch taproot, and any man who tells you otherwise has something to sell you. For working near your good plants, the kettle in the tight spots, vinegar with a can set over the weed, and rock salt never. For what it leaves behind, vinegar leaves nothing in a week or 2, boiling water leaves nothing at all, and salt leaves years. So my ranking for a home garden goes like this. Boiling water first, for cracks and paths and tight corners. Vinegar second, for young weeds out in the open where nothing good is standing. Rock salt stays in the smokehouse where it belongs. And before the last thing, there are 2 more that cost less than any of the 3. The first is a sharp hoe, run flat, just under the surface, once a week on a dry, sunny morning, not chopping at the ground. Skimming, a ½ inch down, cutting the weed off at the neck and leaving it laying on top to dry in the sun. 10 minutes a week on a garden the size of yours. My daddy did the whole kitchen garden that way his entire life and never bought one thing to do it with. The second is mulch. 4 inches of straw or old leaves or dried grass clippings over the bare ground between your rows. A weed seed needs light to start. 4 inches of straw is a closed door. 4 inches, not 1, because 1 inch is a mulch. A weed comes right up through. Do those 2 things, and the 3 jugs turn into touch-up work instead of a war. Now, that root. I promised you the 10 days at the start of this, and this is the part that decides whether everything else in this video works for you or wastes your Saturday. A perennial weed is not living off its leaves. It is living off a pantry. That fat taproot under a dandelion, under a thistle, under bindweed, is a root cellar packed full of stored sugar the plant put away last fall. Now follow what it does with that pantry over a year. In early spring, the plant is spending. It pushes up every leaf on borrowed food, and the root gets emptier by the week. Those young leaves are not paying anything back yet because they are still small and still building themselves. Then the plant sets a flower bud. And right there, just as that bud shows and before the flower opens, that pantry is at the lowest point it will reach all year. Everything is spent. Nothing has come back down yet. That is your window. That is the 10 days. Cut the plant off in that window, or cook it, or burn the top off it with vinegar, and the root has almost nothing left to build a new crown out of. It scrapes one small crown together. And if you come back and take that one too, the plant is finished. Now watch what happens if you wait on it. The flower opens, the leaves get broad, and all summer long those leaves ship sugar back down, and the root fills up again. By September, that pantry is fuller than it was in April, because the plant spends all fall packing for winter. Take the top off a weed in September, and you have done it a kindness. You pruned it, and it has a full cellar to grow back on. That is why your vinegar worked in May and did nothing in July. And you read it right off the plant, standing in the row with no calendar and no chart. Look for the bud, not the flower. The bud still tight and closed, before any color shows at all. On dandelion, that is the early spring flush, and again in the fall flush. On thistle, it is early summer, when the head is up, but still green and shut. On bindweed, it is when the first white trumpets are only just forming. Tight green bud, no color yet. That is the day. Two more things, because this is where folks quit too early. It takes more than one pass. Take the weed at bud, then watch for the small regrowth about 2 weeks later, and take that one too. 2 or 3 passes in a single season, timed like that, will do more than 4 years of pouring things on it at the wrong hour of the wrong month, and never let one go to flower. A single dandelion head carries about 150 seeds, and a thistle head can carry a few hundred. If you have not got the time to treat it, you have got the time to snap the head off and drop it in a bucket, not on the ground. In a bucket, because a cut head laying in the dirt will finish making its seed anyway. That is the whole verdict. What is in the jug matters far less than the 10 days when that root is broke. And the man who knows the 10 days can do the job with a kettle of water off his own stove. And that timing is worth real money to you, because it is the difference between doing this twice and doing it every summer for the rest of your life. There is a whole manual of that kind of knowing written out plain by Emma and me. Save $7,000 a year. The Amish Country Manual. Every method step by step, with the materials and the dollar amount beside it. $17, marked down from $47. $17 one time, against bills that come back around every month of your life. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So you go back out to that path between the tomato rows with the kettle for the cracks, the vinegar jug for the young ones out in the open, the rock salt left in the smokehouse where it belongs, and your eye on that tight green bud. Tell me in the comments, did your grandparents do it this way too? I'd surely like to hear it. I read every single one. Next time I am going to show you the way my Dottie kept cutworms out of a whole row of young cabbage plants with a cardboard tube and about 2 minutes a plant, and why the store has never once sold anything that does it better. The old ways still work, friends. Use them well. and God keep you till next time.